Hey everyone, my name is Anshu Pandit. I'm your civics educator at Study Room. Today we are going to start with the concluding chapter, that is the last chapter of class 10 civics book, that is Challenges to Democracy. In this chapter we are going to read about the various suggestions that we have towards the challenges to democracy that various countries face, along with the reforms that it requires to have a good democracy. Basically, we don't have a specific definition, but we will read about the various ways through which we can achieve that good democratic form of a government, along with reading about the challenges to democracy and the reforms that it requires to overcome those difficulties. Okay, so let's start with the chapter number 8. We are going to think about the various challenges that the democracy face. So democracy face different challenges all over the world. A challenge is difficulty that carries with its opportunity for progress. Okay, so it faces a lot of challenges, and these challenges is basically is an opportunity for progress. We must understand in even life as well that challenges are like an opportunity for us to progress, to have like to get to know about various new things, right? So democracy faces different challenges all over the world, and it leads to what? Progress as well. It gives opportunity for progress. So now coming on the first challenge that democracy faces, that is foundational challenge. So this is a challenge of making transition. Basically, it is from transition to democracy and instituting democratic government. So foundational challenge is basically, it involves bringing down the existing non-democratic regime, bringing down existing non-democratic regime, and that is like keeping military away from controlling the government and establishing a sovereign and functional state, and establishing sovereign and functional state. All right, so this challenge is faced by the non-democratic government. Basically, at least 1/4 of the globe, we must understand that almost 1/4 of the globe, thus 1/4 part of the globe, is still not under democratic government, is basically non-democratic still. Okay, so the challenge for democracy in these parts of the world is very stark if we talk about it. Then if we take an example, let's in this picture, as you can see, that the Nepal's fight for the democratic form of a government that we faced, the Nepalese government and the Nepalese people faced in 2006 for establishing democracy, right? So we can say that there are basically, this is a transition from like bringing down the non-existing that existing non-democratic regime and transforming and establishing into a sovereign functional state that is democratic sort of a government. It may varies from country to country, but the key elements will be the same, right? So to establishing a democratic sort of a government. And taking examples of non-democratic government, if we talk about non-democratic government examples, if you think about it, it is like first is Saudi Arabia. There we have a monarch sort of a government, and then North Korea we have dictatorship. Okay, so these are the examples for non-democratic form of government. So this was our first challenge. Moving ahead, the challenge of expansion. So the second challenge is challenge of expansion. In this involves applying the basic principles of democratic government across all the regions, different social groups and various institutions. So basically what it involves that the basic principle, that is of democratic government across the basic principles, providing the basic principles of democratic government across all the regions. It may be different social groups or various institutions as well. So the challenge of expansion, it is to provide the basic principle of democratic sort of a government like all across the regions. So as you can see here, we have this picture which depicts that the Panchayati Raj system reserves 1/3 seats for the women. Like it providing the democratic principles or to the various across all the regions to have different within different social groups in different regions, localities, communities, institutions. Okay, so ensuring greater power to local government, as we can see here, extension of federal principles to all the units of the federation. Then we have inclusion of women and minority groups, etc. These falls under this category. Let me write it down for you guys as well. That is greater power to local government. Number second, we have extension of federal principle to all the unity of extension of federal principle to all the units of the federation. And number third point that we have, inclusion of women. As we can see in local government, we have 1/3 seat reserved for women in Panchayati Raj system and minorities as well. We also must understand it that we have also reserved seats for the minority groups as well. Okay. So these all differences or these all things fall under this category of challenges of expansion. Okay. Moving ahead, we have deepening of democracy as a third challenge that our democracy face. So this involves what? It involves strengthening of institutions. It involves strengthening of the institutions and the practices of democracy in a way that people can realize their expectations of the democracy. So basically it involves that democracy has to be so deepened in such a way, it should strengthen the institution and the practices of democracy, so that finally the people could realize their expectations that they have from democracy. As we can see here, we have the feminist movement which fights for the goal of social equity, which is the key for democracy. Okay, so since democracy was strengthened in such a way, strengthened in the institutions were strengthened and the practice of democracy were conducted in such a way that it gave hope to the people that they can raise their expectations of democracy. As we can see here, the feminist movement, where it was basically on the ensuring social equity, goal of social equity, that was the key for democracy. Okay, so but as we can say that ordinary people have different expectations from democracy in different societies. So therefore this challenge takes different meanings and have like parts in different parts of the world in different ways. Okay, in like if we talk about in general terms or anything, so since people have different expectations, they belong from different areas and different regions, so their paths could be different for for ensuring the democracy in a better way. So we can say by it that it usually means strengthening those institutions that help people's participation and their control. This requires an attempt to bring down the control and the influence of the rich and the powerful in making governmental decisions. So what it also involves, the other, like since people have different expectations and it has become the type of a democracy that is present in different regions, it's different and it requires different path to achieve it. So what we are thinking about it here is that it requires to bring down the control, requires to bring down the control and influence of rich and powerful people to make government decisions. Okay, so we can think about it like that. This is basically for deepening of democracy. That is the third challenge that we democratic government or democracy face. Moving ahead, we must understand it very nicely that the different contexts have different challenges. As I have stated before as well, the various different form of governments or different regions have different form of they face different sort of challenges or have different contexts because of the various social factors, political, economic and other factors as well. So we can see as in Hosni Mubarak is re-elected during the Egypt election. Here, this is the foundational challenge to democracy because of the rigging of elections. This is the first one that we have talked about, foundational challenge. Why? It involves rigging of elections. Okay. Then we have this lack of democracy in a military state. Okay. So this foundational challenge to democracy is to curb down the muscle power and it reforms to the constitutional design. It is basically foundational challenge only. Alright, and it is to democracy to curb down the muscle power. As we can see here, this is lack of democracy in the military state to curb down the muscle power and requires reforms to constitutional designs. Okay, moving ahead, we have gender equality and parity in the politics, parity in the politics. So if you think about it, this and along with this, we have use of money power during the US elections. Okay, So the gender equality and the parity in the politics is the challenge of expansion of democracy. Okay, it is true because see, as we can see here, we have gender equality and parity in the politics. This is basically to accommodate the social diversity. The challenge that we face here is the accommodation of social diversity, providing gender equality and parity in the politics. This is the basically the challenge of expansion of democracy. Okay, this is the second challenge that we face, foundational challenge. Then we have the challenge of expansion of democracy and the deepening of democracy. Okay, then the last one that we have, that the use of money during the US elections, if you think about it. So this challenge is posed by money and power. Basically, it is the challenge of deepening democracy. And it is basically based on money and power, right? So that's how we see this is challenge of deepening the democracy, and this is challenge of expansion of democracy. Moving ahead, in this activity, where now we have this activity in which different contexts and different challenges are being mentioned. So what challenges democracy do we see in these examples? We have the example of China here and South Africa. Okay, so in China we have the Communist Party. We have studied before, in China we have Communist Party which adopts the economic reforms but maintain political monopoly. So what could be the challenge for China in here? We can think about it that since there is only one party system, the challenge would be like to hold multi-party, free and fair election. It becomes very difficult for Communist Party of China because they adopt the economic reforms, but they are not able to maintain the political monopoly. Why? Because there is only single party system there. So it is very difficult. It is like it has not been possible in China to hold multi-party and free and fair elections. That's why this is the challenge for China. Talking about South Africa, where Mandela retires from politics and successor forced to withdraw concessions given to the white minority. So what happened here? The challenge that the South African peoples face is basically that it prevents the domination of majority community over the minority community. So the second one we have South Africa, where Mandela retires from politics, successor forced to withdraw concessions given to the white minority. So what is happening there? Since Mandela retired, so the successors that were there in the democratic political scenario of South Africa, they forced to withdraw the concessions and given to the white minority. Okay, so what they did, the challenge there is faced in South Africa is to prevent the domination of majority community over the minority community. To prevent domination of majority community over minority community. Okay, so this is the challenge that is faced by the South Africa. Now moving ahead, we have thinking about the political reforms. So now we are going to think about the political reforms that are required. So there are various suggestions or proposals about overcoming the various challenges to democracy. This is known as democracy reforms or the political reforms. Okay, the thing here is that due to various there are various reasons, the various challenges which are faced by the democracy, they require democracy reforms or political reforms. So the challenges that we are faced in India, if you think about it, like criminalization in politics happens. What happens here, that is prevent the people from criminal charges to participate in the elections. Number one we have here. With criminal charges to participate in election. Number second that we have, that is challenge of deepening. It provides the religious, social, economic equalities to the people of the lower caste. Provides lower caste people. Okay. And then thinking about the third one, that we in a country like India, we often face corruption. So like to lure the poor voters to vote for their parties by offering money and food grains like wheat, rice, and so this it should be there. The free and fair elections should be conducted. Okay, and like to resolve the issue of corruption. Ensuring free and fair election. Okay, and then if we think about the challenge of expansion that we face, like to provide like more and more representations to the people who are in minority section or disadvantaged groups. Okay, so as we can see that we have like 1/3 seats reserved for the women in parliament. So it is a better representation, giving better representation to other groups. Okay, then majority. Like example is 1/3 seats for women. Okay, so these were the examples that we can think about in our Indian scenario about the reforms that might be requiring for us. Then in the last one is challenge for deepening. If you think about, like, is to accommodate the various social diversified groups. Okay, so it is to avoid the domination of any majority over the minority. So these were the reforms, the political reforms. If you think about democracy reforms or political reforms in the Indian scenario, like is to prevent people from criminal charges, like is the criminalization of politics that happens. We need to avoid it by like giving candidates the tickets to those who are having a clean image, who have they have not been involved in any criminal charge before. Then second is that the challenge of deepening that phase is that providing regional, religious, social and economic equality to the lower caste people who often suffer from discrimination. The number third, it could be that the issue of corruption. So we need to ensure that there could be free and fair elections in the taking place in our country, because the people, the parties that try to lure the poor voters by giving them money or food grains or their resources. So we need to avoid this issue of corruption. Number fourth is like the better representation to be given to the other groups than the majority group. That is for women, we have like 1/3 of the seats are reserved in the local government. Then thinking about the fifth is, the fourth one, this one was the challenge of expansion. And number fifth is the challenge of deepening, if you think about it, to accommodate the various social diversified or diversified groups within one particular community or everything. So to avoid the domination of basically one majority over the minority sort of thing. So these were the political reforms that we can think in the Indian scenario. Moving ahead, the guidelines for the political reforms in India. Number one is that law play a role, but reforms should be carried out by activist parties, movement and citizens. So these reforms should be, the first one is that it should be carried by activist parties, movement and the citizens. Okay. So the legal ways of reforming politics, or the think of new laws to be ban or undesirable things, has an important role to play in a political reform. But this legal constitutional changes that happens by themselves cannot overcome the challenges to democracy. This is like the rules of the cricket if you think about it. So before that, just have a guidelines for the political reform. Number second that we is that impact of the legal change on politics must be carefully assessed. This impact should be carefully assessed. Number third, reform should focus on strengthening the democratic practices. Their main focus should be strengthening the democratic practices. And number fourth is the proposals for political reform should think about their implementation. That they have to think about their implementations before these proposals. Okay. So number one, these reforms should be carried out by activist parties, movement and citizens. They should be carefully assessed. Their impact of this legal change should be carefully assessed. And these reforms should focus on strengthening the democratic practices. Along with the fourth one is that the proposals for political reforms should focus about the implementation. They have to think about the implementation that take place. So the legal ways of reforming politics, or to think of new laws to ban undesirable things that has a very important role in the political reforms of a country. So, but these legal constitutional changes by themselves cannot confirm or cannot overcome the challenges to democracy. That is, like, decision helps to reduce the negative batting tactics. But no one would ever think that the quality of cricket could be improved mainly through changes in the rules. this is to be mainly by the players, coaches, or the administrators, right? So democratic reforms are to be carried out mainly by the political activists, the parties, movements, or the political conscious citizens only, because they have the knowledge about it and they are the one who are within that field. Okay, sometimes the result may be counterproductive. For example, many states have banned people who have more than 2 children from contesting in the panchayati elections. This has resulted in the denial of the democratic opportunity to make the poor and women which were not intended to be there. So generally, the laws that should be like something are not very successful in politics. Laws that give political actors incentives to do good things have more chances of working. So if we think about the Right to Information Act, which is a good example of it, that is a law that empowers the people to find out what is happening in the government and act as a watchdogs of the democratic forum, right? Such a law helps to control the corruption, the supplements of the existing laws that ban the corruption and impose strict penalties about. We are talking about the RTI here, right? It is a very important act which helps us to look over the democratic laws which has been taken place, or democratic procedures which has been taking place. We can have a look about it, get information about it, right? About all the rights that are there within the constitution. So such a law which help us to control the corruption and supplement the existing laws that ban the corruption and impose the strict penalties over it. The main focus of the political reform should be on the ways to strengthen the democratic practices. Their main focus is, so this is the impact of legal change in politics must be carefully assessed, and we can because obviously people can access to the information about any political right or any political thing that has been happened within the government framework, right? So so that's why its impact should be carefully assessed. Number third, if you think about it, the main focus of political reforms should be on the ways to strengthen the democratic practices. The most important concern should be to increase and improve the quality of political participation by the ordinary citizens. So this should be the main focus that reforms should have. That is strengthening the democratic practice. And number fourth, if you think about it, it is not very wise to think that the legislature will pass legislations that go against to the interest of all the political parties and MPs, but measures that takes place within the democratic movement, citizens, organizations, and the media are likely to be succeeded. Okay, so it is not very wise if you think about the legislation which are passed by the legislature that can go against to the interest of political parties or MPs. But these measures that rely on the democratic movement or any citizen organization and media are likely to be assessed. Why? Because the proposals for political reform should think about the implementation. Okay, so this is what the guidelines for political reforms we have in our country like India. Now going ahead to the case study that we are going to study about it, that is doctors' absenteeism. Okay, so what happens in Uttar Pradesh? So there were several doctors which are posted in the rural area, and these primary health centers were absent and were forcing people to travel to the towns for the basic health care. So basically, what is doctor absenteeism? Is that doctors live in town and carry out the private practice and visit the village where they were stationed or where they were posted only once or twice in a month. So the villagers have to travel to the town, so they have to pay a very high price or high fee to the private doctors for these common ailments or basically any small problem as well. They have to give a high price for that. So this is known as doctors' absenteeism, because the doctors who were posted in the rural areas, they were absent there. They were practicing they were doing their related work in the towns, and they were going to visit in the villages just for once or twice in a month. So the entire month. So we can think about it at that they have to pay a very that's why the people have to pay a very large price for it, high fee to the private doctors for even basic small things as well. So this is what we were facing. This is the case study about doctor absenteeism and the reforms that we require. The suggestions that we can have about it, that is a mandate for doctors to live in the villages of which they have been posted. So they is basically to live within the place that they have been posted. The government should make it compulsory for the doctors to live in the village that they are being posted. Otherwise, their services will be terminated. They have to live within the village they have been posted. Otherwise, their service will be terminated. This is the first reform. The second is the surprise inspection by the district administrator and the police should occur. So this surprise inspections should be conducted in such a way that district administrators and the police should carry out these surprise raids or to check the attendance of the doctors. Are they even attending their village where they are being posted or not? Okay. Number third, that annual report by village panchayat for gram sabhas. Okay. So the thing is, these village panchayats should be given the power to write the annual report. Annual report by the village panchayat for gram sabha. They should be given the right to write the annual report of the doctor, which should be read out in the gram sabha meeting. Annual report of doctor, basically, which would be read in the gram sabha meeting. Okay. Number four is the split UP into smaller states or blocks of villages for more efficient administration. This is one of the reforms that we suggested, that the problem like this can solve only because Uttar Pradesh as a state is very huge in terms of population, in terms of its size as well. So it is possible that we can split UP into smaller states or blocks so that administration it could be efficient, it could be better in rather than before that is taking place. In the smaller state which is administered more efficiently, it could be easily possible to administer a smaller area rather than a huge state like Uttar Pradesh, okay, all over. So the fourth one is to split UP into smaller states or blocks, okay. Moving ahead, the second case that now we have is political funding. This political funding is basically that the candidates who contested the last Lok Sabha election owned a property of over rupees 1 crore, and only wealthy people or those with money are able to contest election. This is one of the myths, or basically the reality also as in our politics, that is that only the rich or the people with money are able to contest the elections. The government should make it compulsory for what should be the basic criteria through which we could resolve the issue of political funding is that most of the political parties are more or so dependent on the money which is given by their business houses. So this worry is that the role of money in politics will reduce whatever the little voice the poor have in our democracy. Because of this, that the only wealthy people or those with money are able to contest election properly or even win the elections, it makes it very difficult for the poor people to raise their voice in our democracy, because this is our second case, that is political funding. And thinking about the reforms that we can think about it, we have certain suggested reforms for it, like the making financial accounts for the parties public. Financial accounts for parties public, okay. So the thing is, the financial accounts of every political party should be made public in such a way that these accounts should be examined by the government auditors. So their financial accounts of the parties should be considered what? They should be made public. Should be made public. This is the first one. Second one is the state funding of the elections. What should happen? There should be state funding the elections. Parties should be given some money by the government to meet their election expenditures. Okay. So the state should be such a way that the state should be providing money to these political parties for contesting the election, and they have to contest the election within that particular amount of money that is being given to them only. So that's why everyone would be having the similar amount of money, that particular, they have to use that much money only, okay. The number third is encouraging the citizens' donations to parties and movement. The thing is, the citizens should be encouraged to give more donations to the parties and to the political workers. Such donations should be exempt from the income tax. The normal common people of our country, the citizens, they should be encouraged to donate to parties and movements and political leaders so that they could contest the elections. So these were the reforms that we saw in the political funding. Moving ahead, we have redefining democracy. The thing is, now we are going to redefine the democracy. Before that, we must understand there is no particular definition or something like for the good democracy, that is. It changes from country to country on the basis of the social, political, economic and other factors that particular country faces. So apart from the basic features, one must understand that democracy also includes what? Social and economic rights, power sharing, protection of minority rights and the elimination of discrimination. So these are the one of the basic things that we think about through democracy. So the basic features, if you think about, is the rulers elected by the people must take all the decisions. Number one, if you think about, is that the rulers should make all the decisions. Number one, rulers elected people must take all the major decisions. the rulers should, which are elected, should make all the major decisions. Okay. Then number second that we have is the election must offer a choice and fair opportunity to the people to change the current rulers. Choice to citizens to change their current rulers. Number third that we have that this choice and opportunity should be available to all people on equal basis. This choice is to be available to all on equal basis. Okay. Then number four that we have is this exercise of this choice must lead to government limited by the basic rules of constitution and citizens' rights. So this choice, this exercise of choice will lead to what? Government limited by the basic rules of constitution and citizens' rights. And number fifth that we have is, now this is the what basic redefining democracy is. Now democracy also include what? This social, economic, power sharing and protection of minorities, rights and elimination of discrimination. So these are the basic, if we think about the basic features or basic of the democracy that has to be take place. Okay. Moving ahead, now we have that first question. So how can our democracy become more democratic in practice and in outcomes? It is that apart from these basic features that we have studied before, democracy includes what? Social economic rights. So by including social economic rights, power sharing and protection of minorities, economic rights, social and economic rights, power sharing, protection of minority, discrimination, elimination, we can ensure that democracy can become more democratic in practice and its outcome. Then question number two, if we think about it, is that what are the features of democracy that must have to be called a good democracy? So what are the basic features that makes a democracy a good democracy, and what must not take place in a democracy if it is a good democracy? So what is democracy? Is the governance by a group of people who are elected by the people of a country in a free and fair elections. The government governs the country according to the constitution. Okay. And in a democracy, people have freedom of speech, expression, judiciary is independent. In this context, we have also executive and legislature. And then it controls the executive and the legislature. What? The independent judiciary. So its features would be that people choose their own government. People choose their own government. Number second is that final decision making power rests with whom? The final decision making power rests with the elected representatives of the people. Have the final decision making power. The number third, that is that every adult citizen have one vote and every vote has one value. One vote, one value. Then is the guarantee of fundamental rights and freedom to people. Fundamental right and freedom to people. FR is fundamental rights. Okay. And then the rules of law prevail. Rule of law prevail. Lastly, we have judiciary is independent of legislature and executive. This judiciary is independent. Okay. So these are the basic features of a democracy that must have to be called as a good democracy. But one must understand that what makes not and what must not be taken in the democracy if it is a good democracy. So the thing is that there is no fixed definition of a democracy. A good democracy is what we think is and what we wish to make it. So basically it is up to us that what we want from a democracy, or it might sound strange, but this is how what democracy is. It is about, democracy is of the people, for the people and by the people, right? So this is what we get from it. That is, democracy is basically what we think about it and what we make up through it. Okay, moving ahead. Now the quick revision. Let's just have a quick revision of what we have studied in this chapter, that is challenges to democracy. Okay, so the thing is, democracy can take the form of foundational challenges, challenge of expansion and deepening of democracy. We read about the three challenges, that was the foundation challenges, that is the challenge that takes place from transition from a non-democratic form of government to a democratic form of government. This is known as a foundational challenge. The challenge of expansion is to expand the basic features of the democracy within that particular region and particular outside of the, so that it could provide to every community, region, and avoid any sort of discrimination and everything. And deepening of democracy is how it gets deeper is basically strengthening the democracy. Deepening of democracy is strengthening the institutions in such a way that people could realize what they are expecting from democracy. They get the information about it. They know the basic features about it. It's strengthening. It has strengthened the democracy institution in such a way that they can expect from the democracy. Okay. Then the second point is says that democratic reforms include suggestions and proposals about overcoming the challenge of democracy. So this democratic reform includes basically suggestions so that we can overcome these obstacles of challenges that are faced within a democracy. We talked about abstentionism and political funding. These were the challenges. We took these were the cases that we saw today and in the previous in that video, in that slide, and we got to know about that these are the democratic reforms could be exist, and these those reforms could be that in terms of political funding that they should provide, the government should give certain allowances or something, some sort of money in so that the political parties can contest the elections. There were several reforms that we studied before about it. We discussed before about these. So this includes suggestions and proposals about overcoming these challenges. And this definition of democracy, as we can see here, is extends beyond the right to vote. It also includes social rights, power sharing. Okay, so it is not just this definition of democracy is not just focusing about just the ways through which an individual can vote, basically the political aspects only. It is also including the social aspects or the various economic aspects as well. So that's how we can get to the information that democracy doesn't have, that good democracy doesn't have any particular definition or anything. It is how we make it. This is how when we make reforms to it and bring changes to it according to our particular country or particular area. So this is how we got to know about the definitions of democracy along with the challenges and the reforms that might be requiring to us in a country. So in this chapter, we got to know about the challenges, its reforms. We talked about democratic reforms, the various cases of abstentionism and political funding. We reread those instances of like how the changes were there in what could be the reforms that are required for China and South Africa. Right, and what reforms could be required by India at national or local level as well. So these were what we have studied so far in this chapter. By this we have we have concluded the class 10th chapters. We have studied like from power sharing to we have come across to this. We came across to this, that is democracy, challenges to democracy. Okay, so that's how we got to know a lot through this chapter, through this class 10th, and thank you for staying with me at Study Room. We will meet again in some other chapter, at some other discussion. Okay. Till then, bye-bye.